Welcome. I'm Hank Hine, the museum director. What better place than the Dali Museum to host the latest conversation in our community? Surrealism is the art of bringing the unexpected to bring new solutions. In that way, we welcome our fellow surrealists, the Tampa Bay Rays. Stuart Sternberg, principal owner, Matt Silverman, president, Brian Auld, president. Mr. Sternberg, thank you. Welcome.
Hank basically covered it in a nutshell right there. I would want to thank city officials, county officials, St. Pete Chamber and other business leaders, team sponsors, members of the media, and the Rays staff for all being here today. And I just need a quick happy birthday shout out to our beloved, wonderful, incredible Cass Halpin, who's right here. I know most of you know her. You've come across her in this path. The tribe takes care of all of us here. Thank you to Hank. Thank you to the Dali Museum for the warm welcome and really perfect setting today. We count ourselves fortunate to have you and this wonderful world-class attraction in our community. 15 years ago, I had the great opportunity and privilege to become an owner of a Major League Baseball franchise, and not just any franchise, but one located here in St. Petersburg in Tampa Bay. I saw Tampa Bay as a great place, and Major League Baseball a great sport. Together they could flourish. Looking back on these past 15 years, I beam with pride at what we have all been able to accomplish together. Proud teams we've put on the field year in and year out, and proud of changing many of baseball's long-held assumptions. Proud of the philanthropic work my partners and I have done alongside our sponsors and community leaders. Thank you. Proud of our civic engagement and our leadership across both sides of the Bay. Proud that kids growing up here know only one team to root for, the Rays. I've been a baseball fan all of my life. Some of you know I named my oldest son Sandy after Sandy Koufax. And for those of you who don't know, he was a great pitcher who retired in 1966 at the age of 30. So I didn't think I'd ever get to the point of having to explain who Sandy Koufax might be. And probably it is not lost on this crowd. I believe in the game of baseball and all the joy that it brings, how it can bring people together, and because of that, I will continue to do all I can for it here. Now that my youngest child is off at college, my wife Lisa and I have purchased a home here in beautiful downtown St. Petersburg. I enjoy all the time I spend here, and now as a resident, I feel even more closely connected to this great area. When my family and I walk around St. Pete or spend a day at the beach and see folks in all the Rays gear, I still get goosebumps. As recently as this morning, as recently as coming over here to this event. That is the most powerful, visible reminder of what we have all accomplished. The Rays have become a community treasure, and I cannot be more proud of what our employees have done to make that a reality. I want to publicly thank our leadership and all of our employees for all that they do on a daily basis. Thank you all very much. We are generally not ones to trumpet how we operate and all that we do. However, today is quite a different day, and I'd like to pause for just a moment to highlight that. So Brian Auld, can you please step forward? Brian and Matt Silverman are two team presidents, a little surreal in itself, and they have known each other since they were kids. Brian joined the Rays 15 years ago, soon after our ownership. Prior to that, he was a fourth grade teacher. Many of you might not know this. He was a fourth grade teacher at an economically disadvantaged school in California. He helped craft our long-term mission statement to energize our community through the magic of Rays baseball. Brian is going to speak to many of our community initiatives, but there's one that I'm particularly proud of. More than 10 times each season, we welcome military personnel, veterans, teachers, and first responders to attend games at Tropicana Field for free. Brian will step up and give you a lot more detail on all this.
Thank you very much, Stu. I repeat our mission incessantly: energize the community through the magic of Rays baseball. It isn't my job today to go through our incredible record of on-field magic. I'm here to let you know how we operate this business year in and year out, and I'll start by saying that we are a very proud organization. We were proud to stand on the steps of City Hall with Mayor Kreisman and then Secretary of Labor Tom Perez in recognition of our exemplary corporate citizenship, lauded for our minimum wage, our flexible leave policy for parents. We are proud that through Stu's foundation, we have built 7 Kaboom playgrounds throughout Tampa Bay, projects that are near and dear to me because I was on the receiving end of one of those playgrounds back when I was teaching. We are proud to have partnered with Creative Pinellas and local artists on this year's poster series and of lending our platform to promote one of the best aspects of our hometown. We are proud of the $50 million in improvements we have made at Tropicana Field, of the fan hosts who provide friendly customer service night in and night out, and of our nationally recognized efforts in marketing and promotions. We are proud to be lead investors in the chambers on both sides of the bay, the EDCs on both sides of the bay, and the Tampa Bay Partnership. And we are proud to put our employees through programs like Leadership St. Pete, Tampa, and Tampa Bay every year. We are proud to have supported every transportation initiative on both sides of the bay. We are proud to have partnered with the SPPD on Park, Walk, and Cheer and similar programs in Clearwater and Tampa, supporting community policing. We are proud that nearly a dozen of our staff have participated in the Courageous Conversations program through the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete. We are proud that we decorated a double suite to make it feel like a children's playroom so that we can host foster kids and children seeking forever families. During every one of our home games, dating back to James Shields' initial championing of this idea, we host a group of children whose lives are so challenging that they regularly tell us the night in the suite has been the best of their life. And we are proud that several of those children have actually been adopted into forever families, matched with parents they met at Tropicana Field. What I have listed is just the tip of the iceberg. Indeed, we have meaningful partnerships with just about every MPO in the region, and we are proud of them all. We know we are not a perfect organization, but we are one that tries at every turn to do the right things for the right reasons. Nobody is saying we haven't had our stumbles, but our intentions have always been driven by our mission. Earlier this year, a friend lamented to me how the Rays had made Tropicana Field cash-free and seemingly blown the PR effort around it. I get it, he said. You have your reasons, and I'm sure you've thought it through, but why do you always have to be first? Well, it's who we are. We like to be first. We were the first to aggressively deploy the defensive shift and the first to trot out the opener. We were the first company in the area to encourage all employees to take 1 paid day off per month to volunteer wherever they choose. We are always the first team in MLB to raise their hand and offer to host other MLB teams in times of crises, whether the Orioles during the Baltimore riots or the Astros following a hurricane. We were the first team to go to Cuba in decades. We were the first to partner with CASA to put domestic violence posters and hotlines in all of its restrooms, a policy taking root at venues across the country now. We are the first and only team to offer 2 free tickets for all active military, veterans, first responders, and teachers and their guests, and we do it over a dozen times every year. And we were the first team and first local organization to publicly proclaim that the Confederate statue on the Hillsborough County Courthouse needed to come down. We were the first and only Tampa Bay organization to track down and pay for a plane that could bring supplies to and evacuate victims from Puerto Rico in the wake of Hurricane Maria. We were also the first to rent and load up moving trucks with supplies and have our staff drive up to the Panhandle in the wake of Hurricane Michael. We were the first and only team to provide same-sex couples with benefits before marriage equality became the law of the land. And we were the first team to sign onto the Supreme Court brief in favor of marriage equality, and one of only 3 teams in the entire country that ever did so. I want to finish by saying something that I think should be obvious and plain, but we almost never speak about. None of this happens without Stu. He has empowered us, and I mean all 500 plus of the Rays employees, and challenged us to run an organization capable of competing year in and year out in a first-class manner. He's allowed us to use every resource this business generates to accomplish those goals. He's a daily sounding board for us. His ideas are woven through the fabric of the organization, and his leadership is ever present. I want to share a story that tells a lot about how this organization works and about how important I believe baseball can be to a community. The morning after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, I received an email from an employee. Can we do something amazing for Pride Night on Friday? It read, all of our hearts are broken. I forwarded the message to Stu. He wrote back simply, do it big, do it right. It was all we needed to get to work. Our staff poured their hearts and souls into it. 40,000 people witnessed firsthand the very best of the Rays and Tampa Bay. Millions across the country saw the team on TV. And of course, we donated 100% of the revenues from that night to the Victims Fund. The day after that Pride Night, I opened my inbox to a letter from Equality Florida's remarkable CEO, Nadine Smith. In part, it read, thank you for lifting our broken hearts last night. Thank you for helping us gather and to mourn and laugh and cry together. The tribute video was almost unbearably beautiful. It overwhelms me even now. Last night, I was right where I belonged. The grief is not contained in Orlando, and we need places to comfort each other and heal all across our state and country. You gave a safe harbor to a community whose sense of safety and belonging had been shattered. I received a note later that day from Commissioner Manfred. It simply read, "You have made our sport proud." The Rays are a proud organization. I am so proud of what we have done these last 15 years. When my young children one day ask me about what it was like to work for Stu Sternberg and the Rays, I'll show them my AL championship ring to be sure, and I'll tell them about Game 162 and Dan Johnson and Evan Longoria. But I'll also share Nadine's letter and the text messages I received from my African-American friends following the Confederate statue statement, and the letters of thanks from the children who met their adoptive parents at Tropicana Field, and the letters of appreciation from the families whose lives we've touched in the Panhandle and Puerto Rico. We don't talk about these things all that often, though we're told that we should. But I appreciate you all taking the time to listen today so that I could share with you a little bit about who we are, how we do things, and how very deeply we are ingrained in this community. Stu?
Thank you, Brian, and thank you all for... No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. It's wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Over the past 15 years, we've accomplished so many of our goals, yet a most important one has eluded us, a new ballpark that guarantees the future of Major League Baseball here in Tampa Bay. It has not been for a lack of effort by many on both the outside and inside the Rays organization. More than a decade ago, we strove to build a ballpark on the waterfront at Al Lang. That park was planned to open 7 years ago in 2012. For the past 3 years, with permission of St. Petersburg, we attempted to build in Ybor City. I won't be laborious with a lengthy retrospective, but the look back is an important one as it does clearly inform our future. For most of the franchise's 2 decades, there's been a question about its viability. We cannot pretend that for a tweak here or a slight turn there, everything would be great, that we'd have the strong and sustainable franchise that we all crave. In spite of our successes on the field and the development of a growing fan base across this wonderful region, we greatly lag behind the rest of the league. We are at or near the bottom in every economic category in Major League Baseball. This is a reality, and we can all confront it together. In many ways, our issues are the product of what makes Tampa Bay great, makes it unique. Rather than one large central business hub, we have a collection of cities, each distinct, each with its own wonderful character. We are all surrounded by the beauty of the Gulf and the Bay, a beauty that highlights the challenges of connecting these cities and communities. Our economy has traditionally been driven by migration and tourism. Tampa Bay attracts people from all over the country as transplants, as tourists, many of whom proudly show off their visiting team gear as they visit Tropicana Field. We are a region driven by entrepreneurial spirit and small businesses, rather than by large Fortune 500 companies, corporations. These are regional strengths. They make St. Petersburg and Tampa Bay incredible places to live, to work, and to play. We are simply not well suited for a Major League Baseball team that needs to draw tens of thousands of people each of its 81 games to its ballpark. The team plays 81 games in its ballpark and is in need of drawing tens of thousands on an average basis. Not many communities are, quite frankly, and to force that to happen here when the conditions are not right could be more than damaging to a team, to Major League Baseball, and most importantly, to a community, than to confront that reality and have a conversation about how to keep baseball here for generations to come. So that clearly brings us to the subject of the day, our idea for Tampa Bay and Montreal, there I said it, to share the Rays. To be clear, this is not a staged exit. That thought has never entered my mind. This is not us taking even one glance towards a relocation to Montreal. I rejected that idea years ago, and I continue to reject it today. This is not a page out of a playbook to gain leverage. We are focused on this plan. We are focused on how the Rays can thrive here in Tampa Bay. This is about Tampa Bay keeping its hometown team and Montreal having one as well. A permanent arrangement, a generational commitment to both communities. Both communities secure that Major League Baseball will be played and thrive there for ours and the future generations. And because of it, a deep and powerful connection between two regions can form with baseball at its bond, at its core. We think this can and will be extraordinary for the region. 81 home games is a lot of games. Does a community need to host 81 home games for that affinity, for that connection? No other professional or amateur sport comes close to providing 81 home games in a season. For a moment, let's step away from the orthodoxy of 81 games, as we're here in the Dali, the surrealist. 81 games in the same ballpark, and instead, let's open our mind to new possibilities. How about that? To an intimate, porous, open-air, suited ballpark, suited for the beautiful Tampa Bay spring weather. Baseball, not just spring training, but regular season games played outdoors the way baseball is meant to be played, where you can see your baseball team play many times a year. You can watch them on TV, listen to them on the radio, follow them in any way, shape, or form you would like, and follow them all the time. A ballpark embedded into its surroundings that is a gathering place for the community, open year-round for baseball, for soccer, for concerts, and many other events. Enchant is coming in. I just felt I'd get that in there. That baseball team, the baseball team that can and should be a compelling and competitive one year in and year out. A franchise with a strong financial foundation, much closer to league average than league worst attendance. A team positioned for on-field success. Beyond the playing field, beyond the majestic home runs and walk-off wins, let's think about the economic activity that baseball will bring, from the ballpark and all that it inspires, and from the connectivity to another world-class community in Montreal. That community will come here in droves to watch our baseball team, to set up businesses, visit our beaches, shop in our shops, eat in our restaurants, share in our community, perhaps retire here. It will spawn an economic connection that is, like its team, will last for generations and grow even more powerful as the years go by. I suppose the best way I can describe it is to fast forward to what it could look like a few years from now. Picture opening day in 2024, March in Tampa Bay, a sunny 78-degree day, ideal for outdoor baseball in a modern, intimate ballpark. Over 30,000 Rays fans cheering for their team. Then a few months later, a summer send-off game as the team heads to Montreal for the remainder of the season. Then in Montreal, another intimate outdoor ballpark full of Rays fans, ideal for the summer nights of Montreal, a crowd of fans from Tampa Bay there too, celebrating that second opening day. A baseball season, 162 games in Tampa Bay, in Montreal, Montrealers visiting their Rays in Tampa Bay fans taking a special trip to see their Rays in Montreal. Baseball thriving in both places like it would not, if all 81 games took place, were home games in one place. Today, this is about why that is a great idea. It's not about relocation. It's not about negotiating ploys. It's about a new norm, a better norm for the team and for Tampa Bay. We know it's going to take a lot of work. It's a complicated idea, especially when you first start to consider it. We all can and do find problems in new things, especially when listening to the blaring voice of social media these days. No doubt there are huge issues to surmount. We're aware of that going in. We knew that. We believe we can get past those because the excitement of what this can bring is powerful. The impact this can bring is powerful. It is change. I totally get that. Almost anyone who hears it scratches their head at first. It's an idea that takes some time to set in. We're asking for open minds. It would be an amazing thing to be a part of. We want to do this because we are champions of Tampa Bay. We believe in Tampa Bay. We live in Tampa Bay. We desperately want there to be a baseball team here in Tampa Bay. Baseball is a beacon and a community pillar, a pillar that also brings with it dynamic economic activity and vitality. This is an exploration. We are asking for people to keep an open mind and join us on this exploration. We're asking for a discussion. When you close your minds off to discussion, you close your minds off to opportunity as well. There are many, many details for us to work through and many more that we will learn through this exploration. Let's keep an open mind. We are excited about this. We want to do this. We certainly don't have all the answers today. We have an incredibly exciting idea, and most importantly, the will to see this idea through. Today begins a conversation the exploration, and collaboration. I believe that we can give this full and fair consideration. I believe strongly in the sister city concept, and together we can make it a reality. Thank you. Questions, comments, criticism? We'll be handling it. We'll get you all in a minute. Hi, Steve. Thank you. We might be thinking about most anything.
Check, check. Excuse me. All right, from this point, we're going to wait for the microphone to reach.
Steve, thank you
with
for
questions.
lunch.
If you have questions, please raise your hand.
And
We have
dinner
someone on
last
each
night,
side
too.
of the room holding a microphone. Mark, go ahead.
Stu, Mark Topkin, Tampa Bay Times. How would you envision the stadiums working? Are you talking about 2 new stadiums? Are you talking about private partnership? Would you build both stadiums? How would you envision this working? And how could that be possible when you've had the trouble getting a stadium built with revenue stream of 81 games?
Okay. We do envision 2 new stadiums. Where the next part of it was, I'll get to the 81 game part. Financing, yes, yes, and more yes. One of the keys to this is when we explored Tampa recently, and when we explored downtown here, but more in Tampa, we needed a roof. Down here, we had a sail and all. The cost of building the ballpark here is dramatically less. And as far as the 81 games, how do we pay for it? We're focused here today on what we need to do and what we can do in Tampa Bay. And what this means for Tampa Bay is a smaller commitment because it's roofless, and ideally greater economic activity because we are connecting with another market.
Steve Carney, 95.3 WDAE. I know you expected there to be backlash from the community about splitting the season with Montreal. Are you surprised at the amount of backlash that you've gotten? I mean, we've had informal polls saying that there are a large majority of fans in the area that would rather have no team rather than split the team.
I think the vitriol, some of the level of it was a little bit further than I might have thought, we might have thought. Look, as I said, as I wrote and I spoke about, it's new, right? When we first heard it and thought about it, it took some time to start being approachable and get our minds around it. I totally get it. If somebody says better no baseball than a big chunk of the season, then there's nothing I could really say to that. I'd like to think that people aren't feeling that way.
Stu, Justin Grenett, CBS Tampa. If the Montreal side of this doesn't work out, would you still consider 81 games here in the Tampa Bay area?
That's not our focus at this point. We are straightforward on trying to get this done. And it's true, we need to have it in Montreal as well and have it here as well. As far as getting it done here, we never say never. But it's after all we've been through and what we've learned over the last few years, it's highly unlikely. I could say it would be highly unlikely.
Dave over here.
Mr. Sternberg, Dave Jordan, Spectrum Bay News 9. 2 questions. Have you lined up financing for the ballparks in Montreal and here in Tampa Bay? And, of course, the team, as we know, is contracted to play through 2027. They need a memo of understanding from the mayor. He said last week he was not going to issue that. Have you spoken to him? Have cooler heads prevailed?
That's a lot. No financing has been arranged or approached or broached in either place. And as far as the mayor, we have spoken with the mayor multiple times over the past months, and we expect and we will have conversations with him going forward.
Sir, Josh Solomon with the Tampa Bay Times. Have you made a decision on brand new ballpark or renovated ballpark? And if so, if brand new, where might that go?
We are expecting it to be a brand new ballpark in both Montreal and here in Tampa Bay. Where it would go is part of the exploration.
Stu, John Sable, ABC Action News. 2 questions. One, I'm curious to understand the timing of this announcement in the middle of the season. Why now? and why not at the end of the seaon while this team's playing well, knowing that the players have to answer to some of these questions and could very well be a distraction? And the second question is, in your vision, when would you want this to take fold? I know we understand the lease with St. Pete and the Trop, but if you had to put a timetable on how many years from now you'd like this to get done, whether it's either after that lease or in the middle?
Ideally, this could have, would have, should have waited till after the season for exactly the reasons you mentioned. I know we have a resilient bunch of players, and we are having a great season. I had spoken to the mayor, and it's public certainly. I don't get into private conversations. I've spoken with the mayor, and he has said it as well, that we would get back to him by the end of the summer. So it was a fait accompli that some news was going to be delivered by the end of the summer. And if it was going to happen by the end of the summer, why not do it at the beginning of the summer? But there were some other circumstances involved with Major League Baseball needing to approve this as well. The second part of it was, perfect world, ideally 2024. But again, this is all sort of in the ether to try to get it done as we try a discussion going forward.
Stu, Martin Fenley with the Times. You have a park where people are already staying away from it in droves. What makes you think, realistically, as far-reaching in thinking as you are, that a bunch of people being told, you get to watch us for half a season, then we're out of here for the rest of the season? Why would more people come to your games then? Is it take it or leave it, or what is it? What's the theory there?
Yeah, I don't think people I'd like to characterize. I don't think they're staying away in droves. A million people showing up to baseball is a lot of people. I don't know how many other events or how many other enterprises here draw 1 million people to them on an annual basis. What we would like, that's the first part. What I'd like to address is the idea of 81 games. Many of our fans, quite a large number of them, come to 1 or 2 games a year. They will obviously still have the opportunity to come to 1 or 2 or maybe 5 games a year. So if we're able to compress those 1 million fans or more or a little less into a shorter season, that would be a perfect scenario.
Mr. Sternberg, Michel Chabot from Radio-Canada in Montreal. Have you had talks with Mr. Bronfman? How long has he been in this project? And we hear that they might buy some shares from the team. Is that true?
It's also a lot. I had met Stephen Bronfman a couple of years back. He came to me, was introduced to me as he was looking for an expansion franchise in Major League Baseball. Mr. Bronfman, or Stephen, had asked us about relocation, and I immediately shot that down. Talked about if the team would potentially be for sale. Didn't go any further than about 12 seconds past that as well. We maintained a dialogue going forward because he had been speaking with other owners and team presidents and whatnot and officials in Major League Baseball and about expansion. And it became an expansion type of thing that they were looking for in Montreal. And through that, at some point, this idea of sharing I don't know exactly when, sharing this team came up. How long ago? I met him about a couple of years ago. Oh, it wasn't even a talk about as much as just a concept of an idea of a thought. Don't know exactly when.
Rock,
I don't.
Rock in the back.
Rock Raleigh, 1040 WHBO. There's been some talk that the Players Association, the union, this is going to be hard for them to agree on. Have you thought about that, Stu, on how to get that, for them to be on board with this, both cities?
I have. Matt ran our baseball department for a while. Maybe he can comment on it a little bit. And Eric is here, runs it.
So Eric and Chaim,
both here.
They both reached out to some of our players right in advance of this news, so they wouldn't be caught off guard. And then the initial reaction is just what we would hope for, which is they're open-minded. They were reserving judgment. They're obviously going to defer to the Players Association for any conversations with Major League Baseball, but they recognize, like we all do, that if this comes to fruition, we're going to have more resources, and more resources means a higher payroll, and a higher payroll is good for all players within baseball.
Jamel Ane, NBC. Have you guys thought about names? Would it still be the Tampa Bay Rays, the Montreal Rays? Has that idea even come up yet?
We've thought about it. I can frankly tell you I don't have a good answer for that one. The nice part is Because when we start to think about names, then it means it's something that could actually happen, and we will figure that one out at a point in time, but it's a perfect question and has been asked of us. Perfect.
Mark, there's a mic behind you.
Stu, you said highly unlikely if you would seek a full-time home here if this plan didn't work. Would this impact your views on selling the team or not if this didn't work? And also, what would be the next plan? Because you guys do always seem to think ahead if this doesn't work.
I have no intention of selling this baseball team. I love being involved with baseball and all that I'm able to do within it. What happens next, I do not know. But we are, even though it seems like a long shot to everybody and a cockamamie idea and whatever it's been called, we really do feel great about it, and we think it can get done.
Josh Cassio, Fox 13. Just to be very clear for the fans at home, if this doesn't work out, will there still be baseball in Tampa afterwards, if this plan fails?
Well, we're here through 2027 regardless. It's a long time from now. I don't have an answer for 2028. I just don't. If I did, there's very little reason to talk about this, right?
Steve Westfall, area restaurateur, different stores downtown, the Park Shore, the 400 Cafe here. Listen, Brian,
The more the merrier, Steve. Keep them coming, huh?
And God bless you for everything you've brought to downtown. I've been a resident here since the Rays came to town, and Brian, your speech about the contribution and what you will do for this community is truly remarkable. It's incredible, and I can't thank you enough for what you have done to date. Stuart, I personally, maybe I'm an easy sell, but I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's genius in the fact that, yes, I'm in the tourist business, and to think that all of those Canadians north of the border would have a reason to come to us in the season of the time of year that they visit already, to double up those numbers, and I truly do want to be an outdoor baseball fan, okay? I see your cost constraints with an indoor stadium. You take the roof off of baseball, and personally, you ask what's going to increase the numbers, I think automatically you will see a new fan base that will develop, because the great outdoors is what St. Petersburg has to sell. So it's genius, all right? Cut it in half. I'll try not to be too long-winded, but, if the stadium down here opportunity that could be used also for the Rays, for the Rowdies, just as soon as the Rays go to the border and give us a reason to escape the heat and show our fan base there as well. God bless you. I just say thank you very much, because my mind is running with this idea, and I support what I think you're trying to do for this community, and that you'd be still in this community, and that's the part that I admire.
Thank you, Steve. Can we have some more of those, please? It's outstanding. Look, when it starts to sink in, I think people will get a sense of it, especially from the commerce part of this. The heads in beds, or the restaurants, and the retirees, the people visiting, the people with a reason to go. I know we have seen multiple years where visitors from other cities, specifically St. Petersburg, go up to Montreal, trying to bring businesses down here, trying to attract tourism down here. I mean, this is just open the pipe.
Scott Smith, WTVT. Sorry. Go ahead.
François David from Journal de Montreal. And the splitting revenues with Montreal, or maybe selling part of the team to Stephen Bronfman in Montreal. Could you tell us what's your plan with that? Because in Montreal, having half of a season, sometimes with the government bodies and everything, could you maybe sell half of the team of the Rays to Montreal?
Well, we strongly envision, and the way it's going to be, this is one organization. This is not going to be that organization, this organization, two separate business entities. We have partners right now, local partners, at least one of them who is here today, very supportive people. We believe it's important to have some local ownership involved, but I have been clear with Major League Baseball, and it was a very important part of it that I am going to be the control person in charge of this, and Major League Baseball looks to one person, one individual to make the decisions, and that's the way it would be if Stephen and others, if we're able to get this done, want to be and come along for this journey, then we'd be open to it. It'll be one team. It's just going to be one team. If we generate $1 there and $2 here, that means we've got $3 to spend on payroll, or $2.98 of it at least. Yeah.
Stu, Scott Smith, Fox 13 here in the back to your left. Appreciate Steve's comments, but I think by and large, the diehard fans don't really see the dollars and cents of it. More, they're passionate about a team and kind of selfishly want that team. How much of it do you think about alienating the diehard fan base that is selfish to have the team? I mean, selfish, for lack of a better phrase, to have the team all to their own.
Well, you said it, the all to their own, right? Ideally, and if this had been all to their own and the numbers were different here, dramatically different, not a tweak, as I said, or a slight turn here or there. We've been through this long enough that all for their own is not going to be an option going forward. It's just not going to be an option going forward.
Greg.
Not at the current levels or anything close to it.
Stu, it's Greg Allman with The Athletic. I just want to say, we knew the price tag of the proposed stadium in Ybor, and as you look at something here that might have an open-air stadium, knowing how much funding was an obstacle before, ballpark, how much might be saved in the cost of a new stadium if it is an open-air stadium in the same place for this team here?
Each stadium and each facility that gets built for any sport is different, depending on the area that you're building it in. Some need a lot more as far as land costs. Some need a lot more as far as infrastructure costs. This one in particular that we talked about had a huge amount of money dedicated towards a roof, and that wouldn't be necessary.
So along those lines, if you wanted to have the same goal of the same stadium in the same place, would being open air save $200 million or $400 million? How much could that save?
Melanie?
Bill?
Bill Madden, finally. Here we go.
Hi, Stu. Bill Madden here. My question is, the answered part of it, I'm curious about the money of this whole.
Sorry for the mics, guys.
Okay. Basically, you've said about the Montreal part of this that they would maybe have some sort of local ownership in the team, but I'm just wondering, it sounds like you haven't really had much discussions actively with them as far as, other than the fact that you're offering your team up to them for 5 months of the summer. And my second part of this question is, have you guys thought about how the postseason would work? Who gets those postseason games?
The first part is, as far as the discussion is concerned, no, we haven't had much discussion factually about it. My sense had been, and again, this isn't about, Stephen Bronfman or a couple of other people. It's about the city of Montreal and the province of Quebec, right? Need to get behind this. No one person or two people are going to make something like that happen. So we haven't had much discussion about it, but I'm cautiously but very optimistic that we can get something done. As far as the second one, as far as the playoff games, sort of like the name, it's going to be a high-class problem to have, one that I believe we will have because we have a competitive team pretty much every year, and we will figure out a solution to that as well.
German Salazar, Telemundo Tampa. Is anything that the city of Tampa or the city of St. Petersburg can do to keep the team at this point for the whole season?
I don't see it. I don't see it happening in St. Petersburg, and I would be hard-pressed to see it happen in Tampa as well, given what I know. Just given what I know.
Sir, follow up to another question you got regarding 2028. Is that a commitment then to stay until 2027, or are you going to try to buy out of the use agreement?
We expect to stay till 2027. If the use agreement had ended, it would end in 2025. We'd be talking about 2026. So this was an agreement that was done 20 some odd years ago, and we stick to the date, and that's what it is.
Follow up. So you guys have no stadium location, no financing, no name, no postseason plan. The mayor's not on board. County officials have said they're reluctant to build a new stadium for a part-time season. I mean, you guys are standing all alone up there. Why did you roll it out this way?
Let's go. Roll it out. Why would we roll it out this way as opposed to getting all the ducks in line and trying to get all these things done? Part of that is the ability to have a discussion and a significant discussion. I guess I'm of the opinion, strong opinion and strong belief that no one person, even me, decides where baseball gets to be, right? I can't just decide that it's going to be here in St. Petersburg or Tampa Bay. We have partners in Major League Baseball that get to weigh in on that as well. We have elected officials who get to weigh in on that as well. We have the public at times who get to weigh in as well. The taxpayers weigh in on it as well. So I can't decide that, nor should any one or two people in the elected officials necessarily get to weigh on it either. So what we're trying to do here is get some, quite frankly, is get some excitement, lift the boats a bit, and let's get together and explore the possibilities of what we believe is a creative, sensible, extraordinary solution to keeping this team and keeping baseball in Tampa Bay for many, many generations.
Bruce Lowett, TBT and Barstow Communications. Montreal had a baseball team for 36 years. Its average attendance was about 17,000, which isn't that much higher than what you've got right now. What makes you think that it's going to succeed a second time around? And the second question, if you build an open-air stadium down here, you've been around here for the last month, there'd be a half a dozen rainouts. How would you make them up and where?
We'll work backwards. Most every city has rainouts. You speak to any of the cities, especially you see what Chicago's going through or up north and everything. Speak to the reporters who go around. We've sat through plenty of rainouts and rain delays. That's part of here we had an electric delay, a couple of weeks ago. That's part of the charm, or that's part of the deal with outdoor baseball. As far as the Expos are concerned, I guess the numbers you say 17,000. I'd ask you to consider this: 17,000 in a stadium that is not very convenient, in a stadium that is a closed-roof stadium, a bit of an antiquated facility, which is where they were playing, and 17,000 per game spread out over 81 games. You compress the number of games, you put it outdoors when the weather is great, and you do it in a city that's ready to embrace baseball again. That's really the argument why I believe the attendance would go up dramatically there. But again, we would need to drill down and find out if that's the case.
Stu, Ronnie Lane, WDAE. I know you mentioned your other owners, your fellow owners, and they gave you guys permission to pursue this, but what kind of feedback have you had from some of the other ownership groups? Could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity because we talked about the rollout, and this news broke Thursday afternoon. To give you a little bit of the specifics without getting into all, breaking any confidence and things like that, we needed to go before, and a number of people up here, including myself, made a presentation before the Executive Council of Major League Baseball, which is approximately a third of the ownership. I'm on the Executive Council. We make the presentation. I recuse myself. We got asked some great questions. The people in this room, other than the commissioner and one or two of his support staff, had not heard about this before. They took a long time deliberating and talking about it. We came back. We're overwhelmingly in favor of you pursuing this right now. We're not giving you permission to move. We're not giving you permission that this is a done deal, but we would like you to be able to explore this because we think this is exciting. Fast forward now, one day later, there's a meeting of all the owners of Major League Baseball who then have to give it the stamp of approval. And my sense is that it got, at cocktails that evening and at dinner, the chatter got around a little bit, and the people were prepared for it in the room, and there were no questions. There were only pats on the back and excitement that it's something that we can go forward with, and a number of guys after the meeting said, gee, I wish that's something I had thought of for you guys. So, I'm not leaning, this isn't us, just leaning on Major League Baseball and, like the boogeyman, mommy says I can't sleep over kind of thing. But they are large partners. They're large contributors to what to putting our team on the field every game and every year. And they're going to weigh in whether we like it or not.
Last question from Rock in the back.
Just wanted to clarify, this is right in the beginning. Now, it sounded like the commissioner said a new open-air stadium in Tampa Bay, new open-air stadium in Montreal.
That's the goal.
Is the Al Lang Stadium, if you were to refurbish that and get that up to 25,000, would that be a possibility, or it's got to be a totally new stadium here in Tampa Bay?
That's absolutely a possibility.
Okay, and the other thing, what'd you say?
It's a possibility,
okay.
Yes.
The other thing, is there a possibility, I know you have an agreement with Port Charlotte, the county down there, is there a possibility of bringing spring training back to the Tampa Bay, up here, St. Pete or Tampa Bay?
We do have an agreement down there, and we built that home. Melanie, who's here, was the lead person on that. We brought a project in with a cost of $27 million in spring training 10 years ago, which is, for those of you who are aware of the costs and what stadiums have been built for right around that time, is unheard of. We use an existing facility. So you mentioned Al Lang. We're going to try to get the place where it works and the place that also is most cost effective. So tie two things together. As far as spring training is concerned, it's on the table. It's absolutely on the table. And it could be the type of thing where we go and spring training follows, where you've got baseball from February through June. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Steve, thanks. I'm going to kiss you. Yeah. The Trop land, which you're talking about, at some point it's coming back to the city. Is it going to come back sooner, midterm, or much later? And look, I'll look back in history, part of our thesis to try to build it Al Lang as first was to get that Trop land developed, and which would have started 6, 7 years ago, and would have energized for baseball down here. Having something there that connects and now has gone past down Central Avenue, past the Trop, and the city is growing like this, and growing in the way you want it to do. This would be an incredible shot, not just in the arm, but a real B12er. Thanks. Thank you all for your time. This was extended today. The tight quarters. We appreciate the open minds. Oh, sorry, Jim. Yes. Jim's one of our partners at the Rays and has been a great supporter of ours.
And all I know about this is what I've read in the paper and what I've heard today. So you're hearing it from me for the first time. I think it's a brilliant idea. One of the things that I think that we should be aware of is that the idea of having a team shared with two cities is not that crazy. There's a whole lot of Yankees fans in Tampa, and there's a lot of Phillies fans and Blue Jays fans in Clearwater, and they treat them like they're their own team, and they're there 1 month a year, 1 month a year, and they're spending almost $100 million to build a park for a team to play there 1 month a year from Canada. So I think the idea of our having 40 games a year here is far superior to having a team just for the month of March. And I think that the idea of the trade that it will develop between the two countries, because the entire country of Canada talks about their one baseball team. The entire country of Canada is going to have two baseball teams to talk about, and that's very good for Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg. So I think the idea is brilliant. I've heard it for the first time, and I congratulate you on your out-of-the-box thinking.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all again. Thanks for your patience today. Thanks for your listening.